and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers. Today, I have Julie Alsaker with me, holistic genetic specialist. I am excited because we met at an online event, and it turns out we're both in Minnesota. And yet here we are in our separate spaces on video, but that's okay. Welcome, Julie.
It's a little bit of a drive. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited that you're here. I'm also excited that there will be a day that we get to connect in person, and it won't take a flight. It'll just take us figuring out our schedules.
Be so nice.
So welcome. I'm going to set an intention before we get going.
Beautiful.
My intention is to, I really, this one is for me, but also for our listeners. I really want to learn more deeply what you do and about how it can support, I'm going to say whole picture healing, because I've really been into the idea of wholeness and whole picture and how there are many layers involved in that, and that we are whole.
Yes.
Although there's always healing to do.
We get to do. It's the next level, right? It's not that we're suffering where we're at, but there's always better. So even when you get out of the challenge, the opportunity for growth, it's better.
So I want to dive right in with a question.
Yes.
I'm curious about the genetic piece of things. So I'm assuming you offer genetic testing? Yes.
Yes. So I use a specific genetic test. So I do not run the lab or the tests. I have reviewed so many tests, over a dozen tests. And there's a lot of really good information out there. And a lot of times when you get the report back, it is either overwhelming or unclear, or from my perspective, because I'm holistic, I use the science for information and nature for healing. There are the genetic tests that it's more of a, here's your DNA, here's your list of supplements, or here's your DNA, here's a pharmaceutical impact, right? So it depends on what you're looking for. So the test that I use with my clients is more of the, how can you support yourself with your lifestyle, with the food you eat, potential supplements, specific fitness things. So it's not A plus B equals C. It's not generic advice, which feels weird to put generic advice with genetics because they're so intricately unique, but it's really more, sometimes people see smoke over here and they get all excited and they put all their focus there when there's a fire blazing over here. You got to put out the fire, but they're distracted by the smoke. The genetics get to show you, here's the fire, here's where your focus can go to get fast results.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you work with clients, tell me a little bit about what that looks like. Is it one-to-one? Is it group? I'm so curious about all of this.
I have both. My one-to-one is very limited. It is very high touch. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of the app Marco Polo. It's a video. So my clients and we are communicating with each other virtually every single day. I have some that message me 3 to 4 times a day. Hey, what should I eat? Hey, what should I do to work out? Hey, I'm feeling sad. Can you just talk to me and help me do a reframe on this situation? Because it's mind, body, soul. It's all part of the program. And so it's a very high touch program. I am full for August. Might take one more person on in September, but it's for sure October, November. If I take more, because I am moving more to the group program. With the group program, what I do is I have a 12-week program where we meet every Monday at 11 a.m. and we go through the Genius Method, which is my field, holistic genetics, the field that I have pioneered. I have created this structure that is grounded awareness, embodied biology, so that's your genetics, your blood work, nervous system regulation, emotional alchemy, identity integration, unburdening the body, toxins, and then soul-led integration. So it's 12 weeks of completely revamping your holistic self. It's not just about the genetics, because the genetics is just a part of us, but every part supports all the other parts. When the tide rises, all boats rise, right? I'm sure
Yeah, and
somebody
they
says it
all
better
have,
than
yeah.
that, right? So anytime we do anything for any one of those parts, it's going to make the other parts better. And sometimes people work so hard and they're doing everything right and they're not getting results. And that's because they're using generic advice for a unique body. And that's where I come in with my clients. Some of them are bedridden, near death, and they're grasping for the last thing to try to heal them. Unfortunately, we've always been able to find information that led towards healing, because that's what I find is information. I don't diagnose or treat. I find information in the science, and then we apply nature to help the body heal, because that's what it's designed to do. Some people are doing their, in theory, they believe they're doing everything right, but they're not getting results. With those people, I get the genetics and the blood work, and I look at their unique situation. And then I would love to say I can map out exactly what I'm going to do, but I don't. I take each case so individually. We'll look at this information and then we respond to what their body says. So if your body, if you're coming to me, throw out, do you mind sharing a symptom maybe? Do you have any
No,
symptoms
I'm
right
gluten
now?
and dairy free, and it's
Okay.
tricky.
Okay. Do you have any brain fog, low energy? Do you have any pain or anything? Or are you feeling ideal?
Well, I'm working with it right now, so I'm better.
Okay.
But yes, I
You're
used to
doing
notice
better.
brain fog. I used to
Okay.
notice headaches, and I connected the dots on. I really believe that there was a connection to my mental health, meaning I would
Absolutely.
get really mean to myself and have like what I would call old thought stuff come
Yes.
in that I was
Yes.
confused by because I had already worked through all of it and it didn't feel like it was present day. And it was like, wait,
Okay.
where is this coming from? And then I would be like, oh, I got gluten the other day. And now 3 days
Yes.
later, I'm blah. I'm in a
Yes.
funk.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
that, and I'm going to just emphasize that really quick. If y'all listening heard that she had something and 3 days later, I've heard that so many times, 3 days since I hear it often that it's the magic number, having dairy or gluten.
Yeah.
3 days later, all of a sudden I'm a big old meanie, but that's not who I am. So as you're saying these things, what's tickling in my brain, and of course a test would reveal this, would be COMT is a gene. So every on the genetics test, the one I use, you get the raw data. Raw data is what I want. A lot of the tests will just say, hey, this is how you apply it, but they're not giving you the raw data. And so then you're only getting their interpretation of what to do with it versus I have this information about myself and I can learn from other places. So on the gene or on the DNA strand, a section of it is considered a gene. Within that, there's still many parts. There's the two letters, if you remember back from science class, and they're called alleles. So I like to compare it to a big city. So you have a big city, and that is your section of gene. And then you have all these houses, and those are the little parts within the gene. And then within each house, you got two people that live there. Those are the two letters, the alleles. And there are two people that are supposed to live there, that the people living in that house have a job for the whole city. And you want the right people there because they're trained for it. They know they're the best at it. And sometimes we don't get those people. We get imposters, and they might sleep all the time, or they're drunk, or they're just lazy. And that's who we have for our whole life, right? So that when I say the COMT, that is going to be the city. And then double A, those are the two people living in that SNP in the city. There's an address in between there, but I'm not going to go into that because that gets too in the minutia. COMT double ALL. If a person has that, then they process the certain neurochemicals more slowly. They metabolize them more slowly because our body always uses resources, processes them, and then eliminates them. And then we get new things. We're always getting new. Well, what happens if the old isn't getting out of the way? Well, all of
Right.
a sudden you have too much. Or maybe there's a situation with it becoming desensitized because it's always there. And there's all the different things that can happen that with COMT, double ALL, you're not going to manage stress as well as the person that has the the wild instead of the variant. We used to call it a mutation, but that has a negative connotation. So now we say variant. So this other person, their people living in the house do their job. So they encounter a stressful situation and they're able to use just mild coping techniques to get through it effectively. Whereas the person with the double ALL, they're going to have to use more mindfulness, more, and for a lot of people, there's also supplements that can help give you the resources to break things down faster. So as you're telling me these stories, my brain went methylation, MTHFR, CMT, maybe an MAOA, and then possibly other methylation pathway, MTRR, MTR, CBS. So those are the things that tickled in my brain as you were saying these things. Now, you've had these genes since you were in your mother's womb. So imagine, rather than building up to all the symptoms from a life of not knowing that these areas needed more support, that you were supporting them earlier on. Now, because methylation has been indicated as something that can be stressful for the thyroid, most people with methylation issues end up with thyroid issues. But what if you're supporting that way back, starting in the delivery room? Well, just a little extra B12 sublingually, right? Just a little B12 for the kids. And then all of a sudden, their whole, I call methylation the most vital pathway or process in the body that no one's heard of. What if that was supported that the whole life? Your health would be wildly different 40, 50, 60, 70 years down the road.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so much of what you say, like it's all awareness, right? And it's data that leads to the awareness, right? And we can bring in the emotions and the like we can get out of the mind part and get into the body and the spirit part, but it all has and they're all important pieces of the puzzle that is us, right?
Yeah. I start with identity way before I go to genetics, because if you are a person that thinks you can't heal, you're right. You're right. You will not heal in the mindset of you're not going to heal. And so when you're a person with an identity of I love myself, I'm going to care for myself, I'm going to honor my mind, body, soul, then guess what? You're a person that will. Now, when we layer on the genetics, the behavior that will help the genes thrive, well, now you're a person of an identity that will do those behaviors. It's all tied together.
Oh, yeah. And layered, right?
Layered, so many layers.
Yeah.
So many layers that we don't even know yet. It's so exciting.
I love that you can navigate it, because when you were talking about the group, I didn't hear that you just give a blanket, like, this is what everyone needs to do. I heard that it's like you might have a group of people, but you meet each one as an individual within the group, and then they all learn together and from each other, right? Because I'm assuming there's some similarities.
It depends. I have some people with there's 36 pathways that I look at, and I have people with vastly different, but so for anybody that joins the group, as of right now, it's something I'm offering with my group now, is I am including the DNA test, and I'm including a one-on-one with me. That is normally $1,800 to do the DNA and have the one-on-one 1 hour with me going over your results and giving you an action plan. I just throw that in with the group. And so I do meet with every person individually. Then as we move through, we get to address the fundamental things that are good for everybody's biology. And people ask questions. And when one person asks a question, all right, so everybody here that has their methylation pathway that's high impact, ears up. And for the rest of you, this matters too, because just because you don't have a variant doesn't mean that behavior, lifestyle can't still affect it. So if you're having these brain fog symptoms, if you're having the inability to sleep through the night and different things like that, it doesn't matter if your genes are good in that area. You could be doing the other things that are still triggering your genes to shut down. It's called epigenetics. So they're not going to, if you're not behaving in a way that supports them, even if they've got the great people living there, the people living there are going to say, you're abusive and I don't want to do anything for you.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm wondering if you want to keep going down this path, or I keep looking at the books behind you.
So, yeah, go with what you're led.
Yeah, I want to know about, well, I mean, there's books on both sides of you, and I'm intrigued by all of them.
Okay. So these books are the ones that I'm a co-collaborator in them. And you did Radical Magic or Radical Courage, right?
Nope, I
Were
haven't
you in
done any
either
of
of them?
them.
You weren't in either of them. Okay. We just met at the Made for More event. Okay. So
Yeah.
the people who put on the Made for More event, they have a boutique publishing company and they do this Creative Life book series. So these are books 3 and 4 in the Creative Life series. And the one is the blue one is Radical Freedom and the purple one is Radical Courage. And they had a couple others first. And most of the people initially in these series were artists, fine artists, and different modalities, and talking about creativity and how healing it is, really, how to explore play and creativity for health. And it grew to where now we have healers in there, we have painters, we've got business owners, we've got lawyers. I mean, we have all these different people collaborating with the same thread of an idea. So I grew up reading Chicken Soup for the Soul books.
Oh yeah.
And it was my favorite thing ever. They were my favorite books. I loved it because I have such a short attention span. And so I'd read and I'd get to go do something. It was so fun. So that's that's the feel of these books is you open it up and it's a couple pages of somebody's story. So my story in the Radical Freedom is about my own health freedom journey from going from being a child that my parents were told I would just always be sickly. That was my lot in life. To when I discovered natural healing and what became of it. My story in Radical Courage has to do with something that was actually took a lot of courage to write because I am by faith a Christian, and I also have the ability to do energy work. And within the groups I was in, the churches I was in, that was not considered godly. It was actually considered new agey is what they would say it, and they would say it was bad. And so it ultimately left me needing to leave those gatherings because I was having to splinter myself. I could talk about genetics and blood work, but don't talk about muscle testing, even though I've been doing it effectively for 30 years and it's what saved me when I was 15. You can't talk about those things because they're bad, because they're not understood.
Right.
And it is so incredibly sad. And I tried to communicate this that pre-age of enlightenment, anything that wasn't understood was celebrated. It was a miracle. And post-age of enlightenment, if science can't prove it, it's bad. Except science, we have technology that isn't developed yet.
Right.
And so there are things that science we've seen repeatedly over the decades that it has caught up, right? Oh, oops, we said that wasn't possible, but it turns out it's real, right? It's called pseudoscience, and all of a sudden it becomes science. And then there's a new pseudoscience that then, oh wait, that is right, that is real science. And my girls joke because we've homeschooled, they're both in college now, but we homeschooled all the way. And anytime somebody says that's science, they would say, oh, so we're supposed to question it, because that's how I taught science. It's an obsessive curiosity of searching for evidence, not a law. It's not a law. So that's my story in Radical Courage, is talking about that. And I had to call my parents and prep them.
That takes some courage, I bet.
Yeah, well, and I do have a very deep faith. I'm a very spiritual person. I have a deep faith, and I believe it all works. And I know it. I know what I know. What I know. So those books were more challenging for me to be part of because they've sold, over 10,000 copies. They're actually in people's hands. These ones were easier because because I wrote them and I self-published on Kindle. And I think like my mom and grandma bought them. And so
Yeah.
I knew, I knew they weren't getting too far out there. They're still really good. Like I like the Extraordinary Woman workbook, and it's really a challenge to really step into your power and believe that you being more isn't a prideful thing. It isn't being egotistical. It's literally our birthright to come and have impact. And so it's kind of a workbook. So it's what are some practices? What are just some questions that can tickle your brain? Go, how can I step into my life more fully? And then the best method, I'm a different person. I wrote it a year ago, and my new method, the Genius method, GENEIUS, so it's spelled wrong, is really, it's that, but so much more fleshed out. So before I had BEST was bioidentical, elevated, streamlined, thrive. And it just didn't communicate the depth to what a person can really investigate, the layers. And so that's why I expanded it. And I'm in the process of writing the Genius method now, which will be the updated version of this. Plus, nice. I have ADHD. So the first chapter is really long. And I think the last chapter is 2 pages because I was just done with it. Awesome. And that's what you get when you write your own books on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple of those too. They're more like teaching manuals. Yes. Like I use them with my students and clients, but I don't like market them or like actively sell them. Yeah. And I don't think that's good, bad, or indifferent. It just is, you know?
I have one of those too. I have a 350-page book on genetics that I use only with my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I love the story of, I just think it's a little bit fascinating that a collaborative book with a shorter chapter, right, is harder to write than your own book that serves a purpose of like what you're living. I don't know. I'm fine. That's fascinating.
Well, because these are for helping other people. These are revealing who I am.
Which helps other people. Yes,
it does. It does. But it is for me, it's easier to tell people how to be healthy rather than revealing. And I'm sure that the Genius method, especially with the identity reclamation and the emotional alchemy sections of it, there's going to be more of me revealing myself, but I wasn't there yet with these books.
That makes sense.
They're more information, right? It's the easy stuff. Here's information. It's not, here's who I am. I didn't make the books about me at all. It was just information to help other people. This is my story, and I hope it helps you. I hope if you walk into a room where you feel like you have to splinter yourself, that you feel empowered enough to walk out and be whole. So it's a different message.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Would you mind sharing how you got your start? You maybe alluded to it in the Radical Freedom book, but I'm curious, like, what inspired you to go down this path of the very specific path that you're on to support others in their healing? Because this is a unique modality. I don't know that I've ever met another person doing this. Like I know naturopaths, and I know, a lot of different varieties of healing modalities that are living traditions and all of that, but I want to know more.
Absolutely. So I was sickly as a kid, and that's what the doctors told my parents. She'll just be sickly. I did almost die at 11 of pneumonia. It was like my 4th or 5th pneumonia that year. But I didn't have cancer. I didn't have this major chromosomal issue, right? I didn't have a major disease. I was just sick a lot. And then when I played sports, I got injured a lot. And so I was just fragile, a little bit more fragile than the next person. And when I was about 15, we call her the crazy natural lady, at church. And she was a massage therapist. We went to her house, and she had hundreds of supplements as far as the eye could see. And she did a radiology. So she looked at these, and then she muscle tested with supplements. And at one point in time, by the time I was in college, I was taking 45 pills a day.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So major healing journey. And I don't do this with any of my clients because I don't have to do a massive dump on somebody because I know the specific thing that needs to be addressed, because we have specificity now with blood work and genetics, and we didn't have it when I was 15. So nonetheless, that all that stuff that she gave me, it worked and I felt better. Now, I didn't live in college. I didn't necessarily live the healthiest life, right? I think back then I still drank pop, soda for those not listening in Minnesota. I'm sure. I mean, I ate the cafeteria food. I went out to eat regularly at Perkins. That was the thing that was near my little college. And I would get those chicken strips every time. That breading was so thick and crunchy. And then I eat the maraschino cherries, like all these things that in my brain, I'm envisioning my genetics right now. And it's like, why did you do that to us? But so then, I was healthy-ish through my 20s. And I knew at around 20 years old is when I had started teaching people about using products that didn't have chemicals in them. So I was on the anti-chemical. And then about 21, I got on the anti-refined sugar because I knew that it drove inflammation. So I started teaching on that. It was 2001. I started my Sugar is Poison Pinterest board, back in the day, Pinterest boards. And then I was married at the week after my 21st birthday. And so I have a voracious appetite for books. And so I would just read health and wellness and science. I mean, I'm not big into mainstream medicine. I value it for emergency. But I do have different medical books that I would at night, I'd like look through the rash book and learn about all these different rashes and how they appear and why they appear and what dry. And so my poor children, I'm like, do you want to see this amazing rash? They're like, Mom, you're so weird and gross. So, I mean, that was just the things that I would do for fun. And then it was in 2007 that I did my first actual accredited learning. I went to the American College of Healthcare Sciences for holistic nutrition. Then I got as certified as a American Council on Exercise fitness professional. Then I don't know the order of all of these, functional blood analyst, and then I did an orthomolecular facial anatomy. So I just kept learning, right? I'd read something very interesting and I'd go, instead of just reading it, I'd be like, oh, I need that certification. So I would just keep taking these courses and learning. And then I went to the Genesis School of Natural Health for my traditional doctor of naturopathy, which is unaccredited. So I am not a doctor. I am a traditional naturopath. And it was great because the program wasn't your typical college program, which I didn't learn well in anyway. It was reading books, and then it was being apprenticed. It was going through case studies. It was how my brain worked. And then it was at the very end. It was in 2020, I think, is when I found genetics. So I've been doing it for 5 years. And the best way to describe it is it's like when you go to the eye doctor and he clicks, right?
Oh, yeah.
One or two, and a picture gets more and more clear until all of a sudden this little line that was impossible to read is obvious. And that's when I layered on genetics, when I had that education and that understanding. I layered that on to the blood work and everything else that I'd learned. All of a sudden, and my husband hates when I say this because someone will say, oh, they have this and it's so complicated. No, it's just in my brain, it's easy. It's so clear. It's so obvious how to heal somebody, how to help their body respond. It's just easy. And I don't know how to put that all 30 years of obsession and hundreds of thousands of books. And then I worked as a medical interpreter for 25 years. So I've been in thousands of doctor's appointments and surgeries. And I worked in the ER and the ICU. So I have all this. Every time I'd go into surgery or any appointment, I would learn the whole procedure first to make sure that I could put it out visually on my hands appropriately. So I have all this medical knowledge that then an experience with patients being sick, and that's why I left medicine, is because once I had all this learning of how to heal, it just became too hard to go in and see a person continue to get worse when I knew the answers. And ethically, under my certification, I couldn't help. I wasn't allowed to.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my history.
I love it. I love the layers upon layers of, I'm a lifelong seeker and learner as well, right? And I have probably more certificates than I need, but I wouldn't say I have more learning than I need.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's where I'm at. I stopped getting certificates. And I think that's really beautiful, because I think part of it is culturally, when you're not a real doctor, there's this feeling of needing credentials to make yourself feel valuable and credible. And yet, I saw something online the other day that said, become a genetic specialist in 4 hours. You can do it over the weekend. Be certified.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going, oh my word, for the love. People can get any certifications they want nowadays. And so that's where I stopped getting any more credentials, because I can find anything in a book, right? You can find the information anywhere. And I moved towards the results speak, right? The clients you work with, the results speak.
Yeah.
So you don't need more credentials.
Well, and I think it's one thing to get the information. I think it's another thing to live the experiences.
Yes.
And to put it into practice. And I think sometimes with those certificates, that feels like a missing link for me. And I'm not poo-pooing certificates or learning in any way, shape, or form, but I don't think it's complete until I always say make it your own, but that's vague. But really, like, live it, experience it, play with it, lean into it, and actually, like, do it.
Yes. You know? Well, even with my degree in interpreting, I was a terrible interpreter when I came out of college, right? I think anything you learn, you're terrible when you start, and then it's baptism by fire. And then all of a sudden, in a short period of time, you get really good because you're doing it.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think, I've had this conversation with a handful of people, and I just find it fascinating. Like, if I use Thai massage as an example, that's where I started. That's kind of what opened all the doors of all the various healing techniques that I've dove into and really leaned into and experienced in a way that changed my life for the best. But when I first started, I was so in my head about, like, the knowledge of it, like the information of it, and concerned about, like, not being good enough. Like, it was all ego stuff, right? And then, I don't know, you get about 5 years in and you're like, I am approaching this completely differently than I have for the previous 5 years. Like, this has been an evolution. And there would be a couple things that still surprise me, but for the most part, there's not a lot. And you get like 7 to 10 years in, and it's just like, there's really nothing that's a surprise anymore. But you also don't have expectations of what it's going to look like, because you trust that no matter what it looks like, you will figure it out. And if you can't, then it's just, I don't know, you're also open and able and willing to say, this is out of my scope. Not that I wasn't willing to say that in the early, because I definitely was willing to say it's out of my scope. But I think, 7 years in-ish, it becomes a truth where there's an understanding that I didn't have until I had all that experience.
Yes. Well, I love how you are articulating that you might have said the same thing back then and now, but you feel it differently now.
Yeah.
You say it.
And doing it too.
Yes.
So I just think that, I don't know, that's why I think of, like, I'm more drawn to living traditions, whether they have a certificate or not, than I am to a certification program that I can get done in 4 hours and then need 4 to 40 years to figure it out.
Yes. If the learning is valuable, I'm there. Right. Yeah. If I can't find it elsewhere, I personally learn so much from reading, which is kind of hilarious then, when I don't always know how to pronounce everything. I do a lot of listening to teaching as well, because there are open source classes on a site called Coursera. Have you heard of that? Coursera? Okay, y'all, if you have not heard of Coursera, I've been using it for 20 years. It is incredible. It is open source learning. I have taken classes from Yale, from Harvard, I took a Alzheimer's and other neurocognitive disorder class from John Hopkins. So there's thousands of classes for.
Is it COURSERA?
Yes.
Okay.
Coursera.com. And you can pay to prove that you took the class, right? As a certificate, if you need it for continuing education, for certification or something like that, or it is just open source. You can audit it. So everything, literally everything from basic math to a variety of languages to quantum physics, everything is available there. So if you are not a person that needs certifications for work or for other purposes, that's what I'm saying. All the information is out there. And so I have a lot of language input from taking all of those classes, but every once in a while I read a word and I know I've read it 100 times, but I have no idea how to pronounce it. And then I have to bring it up in a meeting and I might sound dumb, but that's okay because I'm 25 years in and I just don't care if I sound dumb because I know I'm not.
Right.
So I think that's where you get the longer you go in your careers. We're not perfect, and I don't have to prove that I'm perfect.
Well, and I think the willingness to be incorrect, like the not being attached to being right, is such a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Like to get to that place where you're just good with that, but then also to be in a room and receive that, to me, it feels like space and freedom and even compassion. I don't know. I guess every room is different, but
yeah.
When there's a need to be right, it feels like restrictive to me.
I was just going to say limiting was the word that came in my mind. And I work one-on-one with clients. There is no, this is right. It is, oh, this feels good. This is making sense.
Experiment.
It's all an experiment. It's informed, right? It's informed, but this is the beautiful part of, all right, we're going to try this and not come back and see me in 3 months. Tell me in 2 days how you're feeling. And then we pivot. And it's not, oh, I was wrong on that. It was, I'm not going to run you through 700 blood tests to confirm every little thing. So this makes sense. We're going to try it. And oh, that didn't get me the exact result I wanted. So we're going to pivot and do this other thing. And that infers what the result of a $600 blood test would have been, right? We can skip some of those things because I'm willing to say, oh, that didn't work.
Right. Well, let's dance. Let's find out if this works.
It's a beautiful dance. Yeah. It's a fun dance.
That's amazing. I love it so much. I think the first time we talked, we were both like, oh, just very much on the same page of, learning and being a sponge for information, but also really important to have like the compassion and the experience and the truth. Like I think, I don't know. I think sometimes like the scaffolding and the structure of what stereotype says is genius or learning or, expertise or whatever. I think sometimes it gets in the way of like, what's your truth?
Yeah.
And are you in integrity? Are you staying in your lane? Like you said early on, you don't treat, you don't diagnose, did you say treat? I don't remember. But
I don't treat or diagnose.
Right. You don't treat, you don't diagnose, but you explore and you
educate,
witness and educate. Yeah. And I think, it's such an important piece. And I think it's important to really honor that,
Well, and we had talked too about the ethics of being non-licensed, non-medical professionals. And it's so fun because I don't have a single client that I don't tell them I love them.
I know.
We hug. They message me. I had a client call me one day at 5 a.m. because her sister had unexpectedly passed. And I prayed with her and I comforted her for an hour, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then another person he's a professional in a sport and he had a big event and he wanted me there. And of course I'm going to be there for you, right? So we get to have relationships.
Yeah.
We get to, and
there's a connection that is allowed, but I find that even that word is kind of,
I know it's kind of gross that we even have to allow. And yet the relationship also informs. It's another layer to finding answers. And
Well, and I
it's
think
like a
there's a
privilege.
trust that gets built there, because I think even like taking the client out of it, right? The friend, the
Yes.
client that becomes a friend out of it. I
Yeah.
think for me, I can be more open when there's a reciprocity in a kindness and a caring that feels more open and less guarded.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I think we talked about empathy as well, right? It's like sometimes as an empath, it's like if somebody meets you with walls up, instantly the walls go up. And it's like, wait, I'm matching. Why am I matching? And it takes
Right.
effort to not do that. And it's like a build that skill over time, but
Yeah.
it's still a step that wouldn't have to
Yes.
be there if, I just
Yes.
think it's,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's a beautiful thing.
I wonder with your practice versus people coming into me. I know some people come into me kind of expecting that doctor experience.
Yeah.
I don't know with massage if people go in with a certain expectation, but I feel more often than not with people that I don't know that are brand new to me that they come in with the wall up, right? With
Mhm.
the, okay, I get 3 seconds of your time. You're going to tell me to come see you again in 6 months. And then when they understand that I didn't book anything after you, I don't book
Yeah.
anything after an intake
Right.
because, yeah, usually it's going to take about an hour. But if it takes 3.5 hours, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
do
book
this.
anything after you. So all of a sudden, when they can realize that this is not their expected experience,
Mhm.
that this gets to be a different experience because of the space, the safety that is created. Oh, it's the best.
It is. That is what I love that you brought up safety and spaces, because that is one thing that I'm really recognizing that is at the tippy top of my list is creating sacred containers, creating safe spaces, because the work I don't even do Thai massage anymore. I do, intuitive coaching, and energy work gets thrown into that, and, tarot reading and all this woo-woo stuff that I also had to overcome because I grew up in a space and spaces that wasn't safe,
Mhm.
and so that was an interesting journey. But I just think you never know where it's going to go. And to have that safe space to offer time, energy, and sometimes it's just time to sit with it
Yeah.
together, not alone,
Yes.
and you're not doing anything other than just sitting with the new information
Yep.
and allowing that to process, but you're doing it in a safe space where if a question comes up, you can ask it in real time.
Yep.
If you need a hug, you can ask for one and receive it.
Yes.
There's just so
Yes.
many layers to that I find so beautiful, and interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes,
It's a huge privilege to do
yeah,
what we get to do. And
yeah,
I didn't used to look at it like that. I had real worthiness issues, not being a real doctor. I always had this I mean for seriously 15, 20 years, I was so frustrated because people can use insurance and go to a doctor and
yeah,
they'll use that insurance for dozens of appointments
right,
that just become, I mean, their future, that is their path.
yeah,
Whereas, and it was just one of those things where I go, but they could just you work with me this short time and then they become my friends, not my clients anymore. Because I don't have an aftercare program because there's not need for aftercare because people get better and then they have autonomy for their health.
yeah,
So why isn't insurance? I would be more effective and more affordable. And so I had this jealousy of the ease at which doctors were able to have patients, be able to work without having to justify,
yeah,
show evidence for everything that they were saying. And yet that's when I was younger in it. And I no longer, if you want to do the research, do it yourself. I've already done it. I'm not going to prove it. I'm not going to spend 5 hours proving to you what I'm asking you to do. I'm over that. I've been doing this long enough. And yet it took me a long time to understand that my worthiness was completely separate from another profession that does something totally different than me.
right,
Because everybody
right,
was comparing us.
yeah,
I had a person say, "Why would I work with you? You're not a real doctor."
yeah,
And it stung because it was my worthiness wound. And it was so good for her to do that because it really led me down the path of reframing to find gratitude. what I get to do.
Well, and I think that points to what's unique about you and how I have kind of a similar thing with therapists, right? It's like, oh, I've been going to therapy forever and it's worked, but it's only worked to a point. I've hit a wall. And then I found you and it's like, yep, I'm not a therapist. I'm not. I will never claim to be. I think therapy is great. I think it gives you a beautiful, I mean, it's a great support.
My therapist is my favorite person.
Things can complement each other. You know what I mean? And so I think that's it. It's like, I'm a great complement to therapy. I'll get to places that they can't because we have different skill sets. And I think that's lovely. And I think, I mean, you'll get to places that medical doctors can't because you have different skill sets. Is one better or worse? I'm not here to claim that for anyone. I think people get to decide what works for them and what doesn't. And I just think I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing. And that first conversation that we had, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad we got to have this conversation today to learn more about what you do. And if you're open to it, I feel like we should do this again sometime.
I'd love to. You're so fun to talk to. And I'm really excited to see questions that your audience has.
Me too.
I love answering questions. So I'm looking forward to, after people hear this, have them drop questions.
Yeah.
I'll come back
and you can
talk about them.
Drop it in the comments publicly, or you can reach out to either one of us. I'll make sure that information is in the show notes because I know not everybody wants to ask their questions publicly.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with publicly, but I'm also okay with a private message. And I'm okay if it goes to me or you. Either way, it's fun. I like to do that with podcasts. If questions come in, then I have a follow-up podcast that addresses those questions. And again, if you prefer it be completely anonymous and we don't do a follow-up, I'm good with that. I'm all about privacy and respecting that. And if you don't mind, if your question is private and you don't want it to know it comes from you, but you think it might help others who listen, then ask the question. We won't mention you.
And we're not going to say names. Well, this person.
I just think, if you're thinking it and asking it, there's likely others who are asking the same thing.
There's always others. Yeah.
You're like, you're not alone.
I do have methylation is my favorite genetic pathway. It's my love language. So I've put together a little quiz to help people to know if they likely have a methylation issue or not. So I will give you that link to drop in the show notes as well. It'll just, for those of you that are interested in genetics, you'll see the questions and the questions themselves. You'll go, wow, I never knew that would be related to genetics. So
awesome. Well, that feels like a good place to wrap up for today. I will look forward to the next time. Thanks for joining me, Julie. This is great.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.